Marble cake is my classic childhood baking memory. Source of tender vanilla and rich chocolate cake baked together in one beautiful tube pan. If you love soft velvet marble cake, then please give this cake a try. I will also show you how to get the perfect marble swirl. Let me show you how to make it. Marble cake can be baked in a loaf, tube, or bun pan. Rapid heat penetration gives the cake a superior texture, so it is best to use a cake pan made of a highly conductive metal, such as aluminum. If you prefer to use a bun pan, make sure that you choose a thick, non-stick metal pan that is not too dark, since they are sturdy and conduct heat consistently. Nordic Ware cast aluminum bun pan does a great job. Don't use a thin aluminum bun pan like this. It looks pretty, but doesn't conduct heat well. Black metal is also not a good idea, as it absorbs heat quickly and overburns the crust. If you use this type of pan, reduce the oven temperature by 10 degrees Celsius. Make sure the pan is greased and floured. Coat the entire inside of the pan with solid shortening. Shortening is preferable to butter because it is solid at room temperature. It will stick the pan and provides a better barrier. Butter, unless it is clarified, will leave gaps where the flour will not adhere, but the cake unfailingly will. After greasing the pan, sprinkle some flour, tilt the pan and rotate it, tapping the sides to spread the flour evenly. Invert the pan and tap it lightly to get rid of any excess flour. Make sure every nook and cranny of the pan is greased and floured to ensure a perfect crust. Preheat the oven 20 minutes or longer before you start. Make sure you use an oven thermometer to ensure the temperature is correct. Set an oven rack in the lower third of the oven. Always use real butter when making marble cake. Using 100% high-quality butter at the correct temperature yields perfect texture in addition to superior flavor. We will be using flour batter mixing method to make this cake. This method works only if the butter is softened or 65 degrees to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, the butter when whipped will hold the maximum amount of air. To test, poke it with your finger. Your finger should make an indent. The butter should not be shiny or greasy. It will be cool to touch, not warm. Don't take a shortcut and microwave the butter because it will not heat evenly. And make sure all other ingredients are room temperature as well. This includes eggs and sour cream. Eggs are easier to separate when cold, so do this when you take them out of the fridge, then let them come to room temperature. I usually take them out of the fridge, allow to sit on the counter for about 30 minutes before I start making the cake. The amount of time depends on the weather and how cold you keep your kitchen. Prepare the cocoa mixture in advance. Melt the butter in a double boiler. Pour in the cocoa powder and stir until smooth. For the flour mixture, combine 160 grams of flour, baking powder, and salt. Mix sour cream with vanilla extract. Set that aside. We will start by creaming the butter for 30 seconds until soft. Add 180 grams of flour. Mix on low speed first until the dry ingredients are moistened. Then raise the speed to medium-high and continue beat for about 3 minutes until light fluffy and pale in color. Scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl occasionally to make sure everything is evenly mixed. This method produces a more tender cake because the butter coats some of the gluten-forming proteins in the flour at the beginning of the mixing process, preventing excessive gluten formation. Set aside. Then in the second bowl, the eggs, egg yolks, and sugar are whipped at medium-high speed for about 3 minutes to form a semi-firm foam. The egg whipping is not as true as needed for a sponge cake. Now, using a hand whisk, I will combine the beaten eggs to the cream butter mixture in 3 batches, mixing well after each addition. Then gradually add sifted flour mixture, alternately with sour cream in 3 batches, beginning and ending with the flour mixture. Don't skip this process. By sifting the flour, it will break up any lumps, create a light, delicate, and fluffy results. Stir gently. Make sure that you scrape the entire surface of the bowl, so there's no flour residue on the sides and bottom of the bowl. Adding sour cream will result in a richer, super moist and soft cake. Mix gently until just combine after each addition. Avoid overmixing the batter or your marble cake will be tough. The consistency should be thick like this. Scrape down the sides of the bowl, making sure everything is mixed well. For the chocolate batter, pour 360 grams of the batter into another bowl. Add the cocoa mixture that we have prepared earlier and stir until well combined. Now I will scoop the batter into a prepared pan. I find using a scraper much easier and neater. Place 1/3 of the vanilla batter, then 1/2 of the chocolate batter. Repeat the process. Finish with the vanilla batter. For marbling effect, using a white spoon, fold through bit by bit. I have read many different methods for getting a marble effect. This is the best way. Then use a spatula, lightly swirling the butter in spiral motion. Make sure the spatula doesn't touch the bottom of the pan. Don't overdo it here. To round mix, as you want the vanilla and chocolate swirls to be clearly visible. This process will also help to flatten the batter and break the large bubbles. Tap the pan to remove excess bubbles. Bake in the preheated 160 degrees Celsius fan oven for 1 hour. Never try to speed up the baking process. And do not open the oven door until your cake has baked at least 3/4 of the recommended baking time. The rush of cold air that hits the cake when the door is open could cause the cake to collapse. If you feel your cake is a little too brown, after 45 minutes of baking, cover the pan loosely with foil to prevent overbrowning and continue bake for another 15 minutes until the cake is done. Once it's baked, allow the cake to cool in the pan for about 15 minutes. Remove the pan and let it cool completely on a cooling rack. Marble cake is best eaten the day after baking. Once it cools, wrap it tightly in the plastic wrap and let it sit at room temperature overnight. This storage method can maximize the moisture of the cake. I love to serve this cake with chocolate glaze, but you can serve it just plain or dust the top with icing sugar. Heat the cream in a medium saucepan until start to simmer. Remove from heat, add in the chopped chocolate, let it sit for 30 seconds. Then whisk until smooth. Add the butter while the mixture is still hot. Butterfat adds a creamier, shinier, and more stable ganache. Pour in dark rum, this is optional, and mix until well combined. Now you can see the consistency of the glaze is runny. Let the glaze cool to lukewarm and thicken for about 20 minutes. Drizzle over the cake and sprinkle with some toasted almonds. Unglazed marble cake can be served at room temperature in an airtight container and will last for about 4 days. Once the glaze is poured, I highly recommend storing in the refrigerator since the glaze contains butter as a perishable ingredient. Marble cake is my all-time favorite. This is an absolute childhood classic. The cake smells amazing. There is something special about a classic marble cake. It catches the eye, but also makes you excited to bite into it because it has 2 different flavors. You can use a bun pan to make this simple homemade treat much more sophisticated. It is wonderfully rich and buttery, with a moist and tender crumb, perfect for serving with a cup of tea or coffee. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.